we're going to be calculating from moles of a substance to how many things are there. In this case, we're talking about molecules. The problem could be atoms or something like that as well. So here's our problem. If the container holds 12 moles of carbon dioxide, how many molecules of carbon dioxide are in the container? So I'm going to start by listing here what I am looking for at the end of this problem, because that way I'll make sure. Oops. That way I will make sure to come up with this at the end, and that is how many molecules of carbon dioxide. So that's what I'm looking for, molecules of CO2. How many of those do we have? The thing I know that I'm starting with is 12 moles of carbon dioxide. So we're going to start with what we know, what we're given in this problem, 12 moles of CO2. We're going to multiply that by a conversion factor. Now let me remind you about this conversion factor. This conversion factor is the same for all chemicals. It is that 1 mole of something is, as far as number of particles, is always 6.02 times 10 to the 23. It's this really big number. If you're talking about things like paper or pennies, it's just a huge number of things. But if you're talking about atoms and molecules, it's usually a small enough amount that you could hold a mole of them in your hands. So that's our conversion factor we're going to use here, is that 1 mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. In this case, we're worried about molecules. We should be worried about my writing, but no, we're worried about molecules. Moles we want to cancel, so I'm going to put that on the bottom. That unit goes on the bottom. 1 mole of CO2. Now, you have to remember that mole and molecule are not the same thing. So many students think mole is an abbreviation for molecule. No, it is not. So how many molecules of CO2 are in 1 mole? Well, that's Avogadro's number, 6.02 times 10 to the 23. And it appears we're going to multiply, because both of these numbers that are bigger than 1 or both of these numbers that are not 1 are both in the numerator. So we're going to just put into our calculator 12 times 6.02 times 10 to the 23. Now, in the calculators we're using for class, that'll look something like 12 times 6.02 second EE 23, and that's second EE just as the times 10. And we're going to get a number that looks like this. It's going to look like this, 7.22 times 10 to the 24. Be sure when you're looking at your calculator that you don't leave that times 10 to the 24 off. Now this unit and this unit have canceled, and so the unit that is left is molecules of CO2. Is there an abbreviation for that word molecules? Not really. You can't write down mole. You've got to write down molecules of CO2. But that's how to solve a mole to number of molecules kind of problem.